I got bold predictions in my hand here. These are the things that you claim you believe in enough to bet your own money on. First one comes to us, I think, by way of Knoxville, Tennessee. Oh, it's our buddy Orange Kool-Aid. He says Tennessee makes the playoff and Nico Iamaleava is invited to New York City. Nico is the quarterback at Tennessee this year. I can go ahead and give you the FanDuel numbers. Tennessee is plus 172 to make it. They are minus 215 to miss the playoff, which means you'd have to bet a little bit more if you think they're going to miss it than if you think they're going to make it. But not by much. I mean, they got an over-under win total of 9.5. Fairly decent shot at making the college football playoff this year. They got the 12th best odds. Of course, we don't take the top 12 teams because we had to work in the precious auto bid format. They have a reasonably favorable schedule. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying by SEC standards, it's reasonably favorable. You know that I have that game at Oklahoma circled in week 4, possibly to go to, but also just because I think it's going to be one of the hidden big deal games in the first month of the season. Nico has the 5th best Heisman odds in the country. Now, of course, you're asking two things to happen here. They got to make the playoff. Nico's got to be a Heisman finalist. Of course, if they make the playoff, it's likely he has been the reason. So there's a little correlation here. It's not like you're picking two blind things to parlay. I'm going to make this an 8.5. It's not crazy to me because I think Nico's going to have a really good year. I think Tennessee's going to have a really good year. So I could easily see both of these things happening. 8.5. Not all that bold to me. Next up, incredibly bold. I almost went 10 on this one. Brett said 3 Florida schools will make the college football playoff. Well, Brett, that's a 9.75 from me here. So if you hit on this when you're getting a chalice of supremacy, Florida State plus 160 to make the playoff, Miami plus 210 to make the playoff. There aren't even numbers available to make the playoff on Florida, UCF, or USF. Florida's got the 13th best odds to win the SEC. UCF's got the 8th best odds in the Big 12. USF, pay attention there. They got the 3rd best odds in the AAC. I think it's obvious if this prediction comes true, Florida State and Miami have to be 2 of the teams. I'm pretty sure that's got to be the case. So you got Florida State and Miami both in the playoff. You still need one more. And it's probably got to come from UCF or USF, and it's probably got to come from an auto bid. So think about UCF. If they go 9-3, let's say, but they're in the Big 12 championship game and they win that thing, boom, they're in. USF, same thing. They go 9-3 because they got some big out-of-conference games, so they're not going undefeated or anything like that. But if they're undefeated in conference play or they're good enough in conference play to sneak in and they win it, they're the highest-ranked G5 team, boom, they're in the playoff. It doesn't matter if they're ranked 17th in the country. If they fit those parameters, whether we like it or not, they're in the playoff. This is a 9.75. This is really tough to pull off. Next up, speaking of the Big 12, William from Atlanta said TCU wins the Big 12, makes the playoff, and wins at least one game. Well, that's a 9.75. You guys can't help yourselves, can you? You got to go a little bit further. TCU making the playoffs is going to be difficult but obtainable. They got the 9th best odds in the Big 12, which sounds like a long shot until you realize, oh, it's the Big 12, so who cares? They've been long shots before and literally went to a national title game. They are top 40 in returning production. They play only 2 teams in the preseason top 25 odds to win the whole thing. So it's not the biggest murderer's row schedule you've ever seen. If they win the Big 12, that's part 1 of this prediction. If they win the Big 12, they will have a bye in the playoff, which sounds good. But the other prediction was they have to win a playoff game. Well, ironically, it makes it more difficult for them because if they didn't have a first-round bye, there's a chance they could draw a softer team. If they have a first-round bye, they're guaranteed to play a team that just won a round 1 game, which means you got no break. Not that there are breaks in the playoff. They're going to be an underdog probably in that spot. I think this is 9.75. Even for Sonny Dykes and company, this is extremely tough. Not unobtainable, but tough. And lastly, I had to think about this one for a second. So last year, Michigan and Washington faced off in the national title game. They were both undefeated. Caleb from Lewistown, PA said there will be no undefeated conference champs in the P4. He said at least one of them will be 2 losses. I'm just focusing on the first part. No undefeated conference champs in the P4. It's way harder to be undefeated now. Like, this is an 8. This is not overly bold to me. The SEC could be a grinder of a conference schedule this year. In the Big Ten, I think it would have to be either Ohio State or Oregon. They play each other in the regular season, and if they're both as good as we think they could be, they may face off again in the Big Ten championship game. ACC, like, is there an elite team there? Is there someone that's going to run the table? Big 12, I cannot foresee anyone being totally undefeated. So realignment has really upped the ante here and made it a lot tougher to go undefeated in a conference. You have no divisions anymore, so you won't get a walkthrough in a conference championship format. And then there's no Pac-12. So they took a division. They took a Power 5 away from us. It's Power 4 now. So maybe I even agree with this prediction that there'll be no undefeated Power 4 conference champs. I'm going to make it an 8 on the boldness scale.